So sometimes this happens in genealogy. You solve a brick wall. It doesn't happen very often anymore for me, but it did just the other day. And so here I am. I'm going to share this with you. I'm Yona Paley, and I believe genealogy is fun. And we have a first on this show. I was going to apologize to you folks because I realized that I had gone out of order on my Meet My Family series. I'd accidentally skipped over one branch, and I was going to let you guys know about how I had accidentally skipped over them, and I was going to go back and do them. I'm still going to do that, but not this episode. And the reason for that is I actually have to backtrack a considerable amount of time back to 6 months ago when I did an episode on my Sirocco line from Svencionis, Lithuania. Because as it turns out, I just solved a brick wall on that section of the family, and I'm so excited to share that with you guys today. Now, I smashed my brick wall, but there's something else that I would like for you to smash, and that's the like button. And also, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I post new episodes. So thank you so much for doing that. Now let's begin. My third great grandmother was named Adel, and she was born around 1855, died 1925, and her gravestone says her father's name was Avraham, but her death certificate lists her parents as Joseph and Frida. Now, I kind of thought that was a mistake because it lists her last name under her husband's last name as the maiden name, which was not true. And the problem was there were so many documents from her children that listed her with different last names. So various documents listed her with the last name Melamed, Idowski, Sussman, and Stein. And I wasn't really sure if her real surname was any of these or none of these, or what on earth was going on. What happened the other day was I was looking for the 1910 census for one of her children, Max Sorokin. And I had been looking for the census for a while because he came to America in the 1900s. For some reason, I'd never been able to find that one census. And thankfully, I finally did, because this really helped me to solve this mystery. I wasn't even trying to solve the mystery. It just kind of happened. And sometimes that's what happens when you're researching. You just stumble across a little bit of information and you're like, oh my God, this is a brick wall that I'm about to break through. And that's exactly what happened. So he was living in New York in 1910 with his sister and both of his parents, including Adel. And when I clicked through onto the next page, I noticed that there was a woman named Annie Resnick living with her daughter Celia. And this immediately rang a bell with me because I remembered that on Adel's ship manifest, there is a reference to an A. Resnick in New York. I had originally just assumed that she was some sort of head of a boarding house or just the person that her children were living at until they married and had their own families. It should have been really obvious, but I didn't even really think that she was a relative. As it turns out, she was a relative. She was a sister of Adel's. And the reason I found this out was there were a bunch of public trees and documents that showed her to have married a guy named Asher Resnick. And her children were born in Vilnius, which I know was where the Sorokins were living before they came to America. Annie's death certificate lists her father as Abraham Joseph and her mother as Frida. And immediately I realized, wait a minute. Adel's death certificate lists her father as Joseph and her mother as Frida, but her gravestone only listed her father as Avraham. Oh, the father was Avraham Yosef. And through looking at records from Lithuania, this turned out 100% to be the truth. As it turns out, Annie was born Henna Leah Melamed, and she married Asher Resnick, and according to her marriage document, her father was Yusel Melamed and her mother was Frida Rivka, and the family came from the town of Antakalnis, Lithuania, which is actually an eldorate in the city of Vilnius. From using this info, I found a number of censuses from Antakalnis for the Melamed family, and it showed that Yassel, Melamed, and Rivka, so Abraham Yassel and Freda Rivka, but they went only under their second names on the censuses, were living together in Antakalnis, and the 1858 census actually shows Annie and Adel listed under their original Yiddish names living with them. Avram Yassel was born around 1811 and died in 1870 in Vilnius, and his parents were named Yankel and Chava. Now, I was able to find a Vilnius census for a Yankel and Chava Melamed who seemed to be the right age to be the parents, and everything seems to indicate to me that there's a good chance that this is the right family. But because the last name Melamed is so common, it refers to a teacher, and there is no reference in these parents to the eldorate of Antakalnis, I just haven't felt confident enough yet to add them to my tree. There's also another point of contention, which is that they had a son named Abram Nisel, and it wouldn't be unheard of to have two children with the first name Avram. I've seen this before on old Lithuanian records, but the fact that they might have had two children named Avram and that there's nothing directly tying them to my family, for now I'm not adding them to my tree, but they are really, really strong contenders for taking this family line back even further. Now, thankfully, there was a son of Avram Yassel and Freda's who was born in the 1860s, and that also gives me Freda Rivka's father's name, which was Yassel. So now I've gotten back to the 1700s on two new lines, which is really, really incredible. I mean, this is a branch of the family that I didn't think I would ever learn anything more about. And what happened is there was something right in front of my nose that I had looked over probably a dozen times. But it was only from finding this census and noting the fact that this person was connected to this other family that I managed to uncover a new branch. I talked about the importance of persisting in my previous episode on how to become a better genealogist, and this is basically proof in the pudding that this is the case, because I had mostly given up on this branch, but I just kept coming back to it because there were still documents I hadn't found for various family members, and it was just this one census. You know, you like to think that you have all the information. I'd already had 4 or 5 censuses on this family, but it was that one census where he was living right next to his aunt that allowed me to get the details to break through this brick wall. So I am proud to say that the 17th part of this series on meeting my family has uncovered a brand new surname to add to the Paley family line, which is Melamed from Antakalnis, Lithuania. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and also be sure to follow me on social media. I've included links down below to both my Instagram and my Twitter. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.